Hi everyone, I'm Allie. Join me in creating this Flew the Nest bracelet based on the empty nest bracelet. So if you've completed the empty nest, you can now embellish on top. If you haven't done the empty nest and checked that out, make sure to look in the description here for a link to the video that just came out using that as the base of the bracelet. Gather up your materials and let's get started. So as I stated, we are going with the empty nest design. And this empty nest design features 11 O's and 15 O seed beads as well as 8mm gemstones. You can see the pretty example here that was in the previous video. And I'm using this design now to build on top of Anna's design of the Flew the Nest. So you can see that it has crystals and extra 15s and 11s that are added on and has a nice, beautiful lay to it as you have it around your wrist and just adds that extra element. We're going to be using my sample piece from the open nest, from the empty nest bracelet. We're going to be using the sample piece. So we're using the white Magnesite turquoise. We're using some 11 O seed beads in the Duracoat silver lined Topaz. And then we have the opaque turquoise or the Duracoat opaque when you're looking at it. So I already have the bracelet completely built and it is finished and everything. Clasp is on. Only difference from the original video to this one is that I used 4 15 O's, my button, and then came back 3 seed beads and then started rather than using a wire guard and a clasp guard and clasp. From here, with the bracelet completely done and completely finished, we're going to go in and add a new piece of thread and work with 2 needles to get this nice crisscross design kind of flowing out of our empty nest. So to begin, we have our already established bracelet here, and I have 2 needles on some 0.006 beige thread. I'm going to drop 5 of my 15 O's down to the middle or the base of that thread, again with a needle on each side. Skipping over the first 2 seed beads, I'm going to take my needle and thread through the 15 O's that sit along the side, coming out before the last 2. You're going to do this on the right as well as the left. So when you're working with 2 needles, and you can do this with 1 needle if you're a little bit more familiar with right angle weave, but we're going to do 2 needles just to keep it nice and simple since the original design is nice and simple. And I'm going to go in here the whole way back and pop my needles out between the 2. Now there's 11 beads here, so you're going through those middle 7. Skipping the first 2, going through the middle 7. Give a nice tight pull, and you can see that kind of wraps in that first 8O seed bead, or that 8O gemstone rather. From here, we're going to go in and do 5 seed beads on both the right, and then we're going to take our needle that's on the left-hand side and go back through those same 5 seed beads. So we have 5 from the right, 5 from the left. And there we have our nice little centered piece here with our 8mm seed bead being kind of closed in. So we have the open look and now we have that closed look. We're going to now go in and do the crisscross of the crystals. What you want to make sure of right now is that you still have equal amounts of thread on either side of your needles and that you didn't get one that was longer than the other. From here, we're going to get ready again to do that crisscross featuring our 11 O's as well as our 15 O's and our 4mm crystal. So to create our crisscross design on both the right and the left needle, I've put on 1 of my 11 O seed beads and 1 of my 4mm crystals. Remember, anything we do with 1 needle, we're going to do with the other one as well. So from here, we're going to get our center Xing going through and next to our crystals. I want you to add 2 15s, 1 11, and 2 15s on the right needle. We're going to take this then, and you're going to come down to the bottom of the left crystal and take your needle from the bottom towards the top to create our first little X. Now grabbing the left-hand side, I want you to do 2 15s. Now we're going to crisscross through that middle 11 O. So the thread was going through already from the other side, and I'm crisscrossing through. Add 2 more of your 15 O's. So see how that X is starting to form. Add 2 more 15-0s and take what was the left-hand needle and go up through the crystal on the right-hand side. So the needles are switching sides coming out of our crystal. And see how you get that nice little X effect? Give a nice tight pull to create that nice X illusion. Go ahead now and grab 1 11-0 on both needles. And you can do a lot of this with 1 needle at a time and then switch over, but I'm showing you how to switch consistently as we're doing it. And now that you have those 2 there, we're going to repeat our 5 seed beads, so our 5 15-0s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 go on from the right to the left. And those same 5 beads, I'm going to take my needle that's on the left and pull it towards the right. That is our final step to get that nice X effect. So see how it's not actually on the project at all yet? To get it onto the project, on the right-hand side, right needle, we're going to skip over those first 2 seed beads, and we're going to sew up again through the next 7 seed beads. And we're going to come out right before the last 2 seed beads. Give a nice tight pull, and that pulls that down on the project. Same thing with this left-hand side. Skip over 1, 2 15-0s, and now sew back through the other side here. Once you're through here, bring your thread and needle out. Give that nice tight pull to really tighten up so we don't see a lot of extra thread. And we are completed with our first little crisscross. Same thing here now. I'm going to do 1 of my group of 5 seed beads on my right hand needle, cross through on the left, and then I'm going to repeat again doing my X. So I'll come back and show you and refresh how we're going to do that little X that sits right on top of this empty nest. So again, getting started with that X effect. I have on both my right and left needle 1 11-0, 1 of my 4mm crystals, and then on the right needle I have 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s. On the left, 1 11 crystal, 2 15s. I'm going to share that 11-0 seed bead right there, sewing down towards the crystal, and this is with my left hand needle. I'm going to then add 2 more 11-0 seed beads, 15-0 seed beads. And you'll notice that X right there on top. So we made that little X right there on top. And now to bring it to sit in between the crystals, the needle that's on the right hand side is going to go up through the crystal on the right. The needle that's on the left hand side is going to go up through the crystal. And if you forget which way, you're starting at the 11 and going up towards the crystal. Give a nice little tight pull, pushing those down and forcing that X to sit up nice in the middle there. And then once again, add an 11-0 to either needle, or to both needles rather, as well as 5 of your seed beads in the 15s. So this was my right needle that I just added 1 11, 5 15s, left needle, 1 11, and then crisscross through, bringing my needle from the left over towards the right, just through those 5 15s and out. This is your opportunity also, once again, to give a nice tight pull, get rid of any thread. That Xing then is on the exterior. And now once again, to continue, take my needle that's on the left up through 7 of the 15-0 seed beads from the base here, skipping the first 2 out of the 11, going through those middle 7 beads, number 3 through 9, and then out before the last 2 beads and continue. I have the right needle through here. I'm going to do the left, and then we start over again with that crisscross pattern, throughout the entire rest of the bracelet. It'll start to have a tiny bit of curvature to it, and it wants to curve just a little bit. When it's sitting on your wrist, it's that natural form, and it will easily conform to your wrist as you build. So as you finish up adding in your 5 last 15-0s, you're coming out with your needles to the right and the left, but we need to pin this down onto the piece, otherwise it's just going to float on top. I'm going to take my needle and thread and go down through those last 2 15-0s on both sides to pin this down onto the piece. And then depending on your thread color, you can tie your knot right there, because I'm not going to see this thread right here next to those gold beads. The other thing that you can do is take your thread and needle right through the 8/0 seed bead and pop out the back. You can also go through the seed beads and reinforce your clasp again if you need to. And I'm coming out the bottom here, pulling all of my strands through, and you can see that holds it and makes that nice little tight piece. From here, to finish off this Flew the Nest bracelet, we have 2 needles, so it's great and easy. Just like we started really easily, we're going to end very easily. We're going to take these 2 thread ends, and we are going to tie a couple knots. Right over left, left over right, tying in, and we can easily conceal these to the back of the bracelet. Once I have my knots tied off, nice and tight, I'm going to separate out my thread ends, burn one down, burn the other one down, and I'm leaving a fairly long piece of thread there because when I burn down, I want it to stay to this side of the 8mm gemstone. And then you have your bracelet complete. So you went from a nice open and flowy look from the empty nest to that nice Flew the Nest with those crisscrosses over the top. And it's so fun to see how different it looks based on whether or not you decide to embellish or not. There's also tons and tons of differences that you can make and change up sizes of crystals as well as counts. So make sure in the comments below the video to give your feedback to help out the rest of the Potomac beaders that may be watching. Thanks so much for the design to Anna for that beautiful addition of the crystals on top of that empty nest. Remember, if you need any supplies, go ahead and check in the description of the video, as well as we'll put a link there to the empty nest video if you need to watch that one first to do our base. Remember, you can always go back into and embellish the other side as well and have fun making it reversible. Can't wait to see your different designs in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Thanks so much for watching. Give that little thumbs up and continue on to the next Potomac Beads video.